Live.
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be sharing our thoughts on the newly released LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales special. We also have a brand new slate of Star Wars books that have been revealed for the next year. We're going to be breaking that down, and also really a truly crazy scene description from the book of Boba Fett that we're going to be getting to. All that and so much more on this show. My name is Chris, and back with us, it is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's good to be back this week instead of just making a weird cameo while wandering around various Toronto tourist locations. It's good to be back in studio, and it's good. I'm very excited to be here to talk about this new LEGO special and diving into everything there. Now, if you're watching this on video, you may notice I'm wearing the same sweatshirt that I wore last week while I was wandering around. This is because I got some questions about it, so I wanted to show it off a little bit more. It says Wookiee of the Year on it. There's Chewbacca. There's the Blue Jays logo there, and there's the Rebel Alliance logo to match my arm. But yeah, it's probably the best thing I own. I think it's probably the best thing I own. So so I got some questions about it. I wanted to show it off. I like it a lot. But yeah, it's great to be back. Great to be talking about LEGO Star Wars and Star Wars books. Those were a couple of unexpected announcements. Really looking forward to diving into all that. It's going to be a great show.
Heck yes, and also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? I'm just not sure how I feel about there being two of me on this podcast. No, it's like this. No, yeah, that way. Yeah, that's the way it works. Yeah, this is really weird. Anyway, I'm gonna try to ignore it and just push through. There won't be any weird accents this week. I promise you. The house over there. I'm not gonna do anything with that. All right, you're safe. All right, I promise. British listeners, you can come back. I promise. Nothing will happen. Actually, why would I make a promise like that? Why? That's a promise I cannot clearly keep. So yeah, I'll just get into it. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. I've enjoyed all the stuff that they've been releasing on Disney Plus lately, plus a whole lot more. And then yeah, we got some news just a few hours ago that I'm very excited to talk about.
Yeah, and by the way, for everybody that's listening on audio, Ben is referring to my virtual background where I have a picture of him reacting, quote unquote, to the LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales. And yeah, so we do have two Bens. One of them may or may not be Sir Benjamin, the Star Wars gentleman. The other one is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
You never know where that guy could pop up next.
Yeah. You never know. He's always sneaking up behind you, making a face like he's frightened by some Lego minifigures. It'd be real terrifying if he was behind you, Ben, seeing as, I mean, then again, we've never seen you in the same spot, so.
And, you've never seen any of my clones that I know of, so just saying.
Ben's clones. Now, there's a bit that goes back to the very early days of the podcast.
That does.
That there is a throwback, I tell you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna sit back and let this happen. I'm not gonna respond with any weird voices. All right.
For
that.
For everybody that listened to the pre-show, Ben's just like, I'm just gonna sit back and let you guys dig your own graves with this nonsense that you're thinking of.
Hey, go listen to the pre-show if you want to listen to some real ridiculousness. Them trying to just destroy me.
We're trying to get Ben. We're trying to get Ben a new job. Is what we're trying to do.
Not sure how I feel about it so far, but we'll see how this goes. Just check Twitter. You'll get a taste of it.
If you want to see all those shenanigans, patreon.com/theswu is where you can check that out. That's where our pre-shows are. And we've been very consistent since we've been doing YouTube. Our pre-shows have been very long and very consistent. Like, you know, sometimes we'd have like really short pre-shows or go a week sometimes without a pre-show before. But yeah, since we needed to show up to use the pre-show to test all the YouTube stuff and make sure everything's good, we pretty much have a 25 to 30-minute pre-show every single week, and we've had that for a while. They're all up on Patreon, patreon.com/theswu. Donating $1 or more gets you those pre-shows. I also need some help from our viewers, because we need 69 people, and we're stuck at that number for some reason.
Nice.
And have been for a while for some reason. But we need 69 people to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Or don't. Just you know, if we have to stay somewhere, we'll stay here.
So
it's nice.
If we get to 69 more people.
Either way is good with us.
Right.
I think Sir Benjamin, the Star Wars gentleman, needs to say that part.
So yes, when we get
is this the most teenage boy our show has ever been? Because I have a feeling I don't know if we've ever quite veered into this territory before.
Don't grow up, it's a trap.
So okay, E-Man in our chat fixed this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Either he subscribed or got someone to subscribe or noticed that someone else subscribed. So now we need 68.
68
to subscribe to get to 1,000 subscribers. So please do. If you're listening to the show on audio, even if you don't watch on YouTube, just subscribing to our channel would be good. We also have like highlights and things we're going to be putting up, so you can catch some of the videos without having to watch the whole thing. And we're looking into producing some shorts too. We have some exciting stuff coming down the pipe for that. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also definitely check out all the other great podcasts that are on YouTube that are part of our podcast network. We frequently have the host from Star Wars Culture on our show, and their show is awesome, and it happens an hour and 1 day before our show. So just go back in time whenever you watch our show, whatever your time zone is, an hour earlier, a day earlier. That's when they broadcast on YouTube over in the Star Wars Culture channel. We also got the Rollout, and we also have Chatter Squadron, which broadcasts Friday and Saturday. So make sure you check them out. You can find our merch at tpublic.com/user/the Star Wars Underworld. Our email line is swunderworld@gmail.com. And if you are listening on any podcast apps that let you leave a review, please do. Ben, what is going on with your many podcasts?
Yeah, so guys, I've been busy. So first of all, I had to make a note of all this to make sure I got it all right. So first of all, IPC happening this week again. Our producer Chad will be on with me to talk about Superman and Lois, one of my favorite new shows to come out. So you have 24 hours to catch up if you have. It's on HBO Max. Go watch it. I was also over on the Doc Holocron and Joel invited me on to do a little commentary. We watched the first 4 episodes of Star Wars Visions, which was a lot of fun. And you can go check that out on their YouTube channel. Just search up Doc Holocron. Hype Function, our good buddy Jeff invited me on to, talk about what else? Star Wars Visions. That was a lot of fun. It's always good to talk to Jeff. And then, as if I couldn't just help myself, as if I wasn't just bored enough, that little secret project I was talking about last week, it's not so secret anymore. I have started a new podcast for some reason. I still don't know quite why, but it's happening. It's called, and I'm not making this up, Late Night with no E, and it's spelled just as it sounds, Lat-nit with no E. You can find it on all the podcatchers. I don't know why. I don't know how they allowed this, but it's happening. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, it's all over there. And I have about 5 episodes out right now. One of them is very, very long. I had a good chat with our buddy Connor over at Star Wars Hub, and I'm producing more. And that's something I'm doing on the side. And basically the whole concept is minimal effort, and I don't care. It's just something I'm doing, and there will be no editing, no censoring, nothing. It's just a show that I do, and we'll talk, and it'll happen sometimes. No schedule, no anything. So that's happening. Go check it out.
But
I don't care.
it has to happen late at night, though. That's the only rule.
No, it has to happen lat at nit.
Exactly.
Well,
if
see,
it's not lat at knit
somewhere.
It doesn't count.
It's late at night somewhere. See, I did it at like 11 o'clock my time the other day, but it was nighttime for Connor. So like,
I guess that counts.
That counts. I can cheat it. It. Just
that's smart. Yep.
Yep. I suppose that works.
And then of course your alter ego has Tapo de Morning, so make sure you subscribe to that too.
No, I'm not good.
And keep your eyes peeled for Ben's next podcast covering minor league baseball.
That's right.
No, don't get their hopes up. Don't get their hopes up.
Again,
that really will be terrible.
Watch the pre-show. Sit through about 20 minutes of actual, genuine sports talk to get
and
to.
And they hit the ball, and I don't know what's happening, but this is a really exciting game.
When we went to a Cubs game before Celebration Chicago, 2 of my favorite baseball moments happened because we were joined by Kieran, who's from the UK, and Dan Grievous, who's from Bulgaria. And baseball doesn't have much of a hold in either of those countries. And so I spent a lot of that evening trying to explain the game to people who just didn't get it. Kieran had seen enough cricket that he sort of got it, although at one point he referred to the pitcher as the bowler. And I was like, no, that's not quite right. And at one point, I think I was trying to explain to Dan like why somebody couldn't just run from first base to second base when the ball gets caught. And he just looked at me. He goes, but why? What's the point? And I'm like, there is no point. It's sports. We follow the rules are just there to give structure to this contest. He's like, no, but why? I'm like, I don't know why. What do you mean why?
No, there is no why.
Yeah. But that was a great night. All right, we'll move off of baseball. We'll move off of baseball for now. Although who knows next week, Ben.
Next week, who knows?
But let's dive into things. We'll start with all of the excitement on Disney Plus. Did you guys happen to check out Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales?
What? That was this week?
That was this week. And also, Chad, it's Terrifying Tales, not tail. Just the graphic there was just a little bit
plural.
It's because he's trying to market his podcast Chad with no S. So.
Yeah. But anyways, of course, we're talking about Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, written by David Shane and directed by Ken Cunningham. When Poe Dameron crash lands on the planet Mustafar, he has to search for a repairman in Darth Vader's old castle, where he meets the Dark Lord's former attendant, Vanne, who tells him some spooky stories that may or may not have happened, although almost certainly did not actually happen the way he told them in the Star Wars galaxy, while also trying to put together a plot of his own. Lots to get into this week with the 3 stories and the 4th story involving Poe Dameron. And we'll start how we always do. Just like Pod Force 99 or Radio Razor Crest or the Clone Wars Strikes Back or any of those other shows we do. We're going to go around the table, going to give our initial impressions. And Ben, we're going to throw it to you first.
Which Ben? Which one are you talking to? I'm sorry.
Sir Benjamin.
Oh, yes, quite. Yeah, I really enjoyed this even more than I thought I would. I've enjoyed the Lego specials. I love the holiday special. Like it's been great. Like all these stuff. The Lego stuff is usually pretty top tier content. But I think this was on par with a lot of what I've seen before. Maybe not my favorite of all of them, but really fun. Again, going back to something, even though maybe technically it's not canon, I still love them playing in this era after the Rise of Skywalker, and having Poe and BB-8, and then kind of tying in the Rogue One connections and going to Vader's castle, just ridiculousness. And it's just really so much fun. It was genuinely made me laugh several times, and also, there's some like, wow, okay, we've been talking about what ifs all this time, recently, and there's like one story in particular, like, wow, this is a really strong what if, like this is a totally reimagining of the first Star Wars movie. So I really enjoyed this one. I think it was a great little addition to this little holiday special cinematic universe we've got going on here, and I would love to see more if they came around to it. Do what other holidays could they do? Easter,
yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah. There's lots of holidays. So you just pick a holiday, or just give up on doing holidays and just do ones for different days of the week. Lego Star Wars Monday, Lego Star Wars Tuesday, and we'll just see what happens. Chris, what about you? What did you think of this one?
Okay, so we have this situation come up, it seems like once a year now, where Lego tries to tackle stories that should be told in movies and like other Star Wars projects, and I don't know why Lego's the only one that wants to tell these sequel era stories. So my biggest like disappointment was like, oh, we got this really great Kylo Ren story, but it's not canon, so it doesn't matter. But that was interesting. So I thought that was fascinating that they went into that space and time where there's nothing. Like that young Kylo Ren era of Star Wars, there's so few stories that have been told in that era. So I thought that was really interesting that they chose to go in there with one of their tales. I think comparing it to last year's special, the holiday special, I prefer the holiday special. For me, that made me laugh a few more times, and kind of like, I feel like having one long drawn out story and also cutting back and forth to an A plot and a B plot worked for me a little bit more with the pacing than the idea of having a story and then stopping and then telling another story and then stopping and then having this kind of thing bridging all them together. Like, I think it was a little more complicated and hard to kind of juggle with this one. But I thought it was super ambitious and intriguing. And again, I just really think Lego's awesome for wanting to go where I guess Star Wars doesn't want to go inside their own canon. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it really is incredible how Lego are the only people going there, and not just going there, but doing a really good job with it, and sometimes doing better than the actual things themselves. Like it's really good. Like I really enjoyed this one. I didn't have quite the same hype for it that I did last year for the holiday special. Christmas movies have a real special have a real special place in my heart. Whereas Halloween stuff, I love Halloween, but I didn't look forward to this quite the same way. Although when I saw somebody describe it as Star Wars' take on Treehouse of Horror, I was like, okay, I see it. I like this idea. So but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I loved the Poe Dameron story. I loved the Dean character. I love how that ties in with sort of where we left things in The Rise of Skywalker. And again, one of the things that just sort of this kind of small thing that bothers me about Rise of Skywalker is I felt like that movie didn't have a good piece of classic Star Wars advice. Something on par with do or do not, or your focus determines your reality. And I really felt that the conclusion to the Skywalker saga should have a Skywalker give a very profound piece of advice that builds on what Luke learned and what Anakin learned and what Rey has learned and what they're passing on, not just to the characters but to the audience, in the same way that do or do not, there is no try is an excellent just sort of life lesson in general. And what we got in the movie was confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi, which is okay, but I've always found it's a little too specific. It's too specific to Star Wars and not really, I don't know, it doesn't carry that same weight as those other ones. And I thought the holiday special last year had a really strong message about the connections that we make and how those are what drive us and save us and make life worth living. But I thought this year's special, Terrifying Tales, actually did a better job of evoking the lesson about fear when Poe says, without fear, we can't have courage. That's a great piece of Star Wars advice. Yeah. That's classic Star Wars advice. That's what I was. That's the sort of line I was looking for from Luke in Rise of Skywalker about, what role fear plays in becoming a Jedi. Not just becoming a Jedi means confronting fear, which, okay, works in universe, fine. But without fear, we can't have courage is a great line in universe and a great line out of universe, just like your focus determines your reality and the other ones that we've mentioned. So I think Lego they nailed not just sort of the fun, silly holiday vibe, but also the heart and soul of Star Wars when they boiled it down to a great little lesson for kids and grown-up kids to take away from this thing. It's a little bit of a reimagining or a revisiting of the role that fear plays in Star Wars. Because we all think about the line that Yoda has in Phantom Menace, right? Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And it's very easy to take the lesson away from that line that, okay, just don't be afraid of anything, be an automaton, have no emotions, right. and that's how you'll be safe. And that is, to be fair, kind of the lesson the Jedi of the prequel era are trying to take. That's kind of how they're trying to live their life. But the reality is, we have emotions for a reason. They're a natural thing. They're there to tell us something. And fear, yes, you shouldn't let it define you or define your actions. But like Poe says, without fear, you can't have courage. You can't step up for and help those in need if you don't know something is wrong. And fear is a way of telling you that something is wrong. So I thought it was just beautiful. And again, Lego just nailing the heart and soul of Star Wars, as they so often do.
Well, I think that bringing up that line, I think, is a great example of I think the fear leads to anger and anger leads to hate. Like, it's a classic line, but I think it ultimately represents what was wrong with the Jedi at the time. And the Jedi's whole thing was like, oh well, if you have strong emotions, if you get mad, you're going to turn to the dark side. So just don't get emotional. just stay zen. It's just like it's like telling someone with depression, just get better. Now, it doesn't work emotions don't work like that. You can't.
But the Jedi are encouraged to love.
Right. It's more, I love this message of fear is natural. Fear is natural. It's just what you do with it, how you control it, how, you can't overcome fear without having fear in the first place. It's just going to happen. You just got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's beautiful. I know I bring up that point about the Rise of Skywalker a lot, but I really wanted to bring it up again because this line so specifically represents a better version, in my opinion, of the lesson from that movie.
Francisco in the chat had mentioned, bring the Lego writers to the movies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what would have happened if we're talking Star Wars what ifs? What would have happened if some Lego writers did Rise of Skywalker? That would have been interesting because they were gonna do Solo was gonna be Lego writers.
Yeah, hey,
right. So they came really close to having Lego, writers in live action.
Yeah, the reason Phil Lord and Chris Miller actually got fired was because there was going to be a scene where Alden Ehrenreich was going to take his hair off for a second and put it down and then put it back on. And Kathleen Kennedy saw that scene and she's like, no, that's not how this works in our movies.
Not everything's made out of plastic.
Yeah. She's like, everything is not awesome with that scene. No,
But
get
yeah,
out.
I mean, I agree with that. Like, when you look at these past two specials that have taken place in the sequel era, it's some of the best sequel storytelling. Neither of them is canon, although the last one was more arguably canon.
Yeah, the holiday special is canon as far as I'm concerned.
That one had
And-
less conflicting things in it, so it could
Well,
work.
so let me preface this by saying I don't care about canon, but the Poe Dameron part of this could be canon.
That's
because
right.
because Vane is telling Poe stories, and we know at least one of them didn't happen, the Luke story,
Right.
and we're pretty sure about two of them not happening, the Maul Grievous thing. And so the one that seems like it could conceivably be the most real of all of them, the Ben Solo story, probably there's elements of truth to that, just like there are elements of truth to the Luke and the Maul Grievous story. But at the end of the day, I don't think Christian Slater showed up at Luke's Jedi Temple and did a little dance with Adam Driver, and that's when he turned to the dark side. And, in fact, we know that's not how it happened because, we see Ben turns to the dark side after his little dance with Christian Slater in this, and then Lucas shows up and he's like, Ben, what have you done? But we know from Last Jedi, that wasn't the moment.
Again, those are stories too, and those flashbacks could be not actual flashbacks.
You're right. There could have been a dance scene. I
think the whole thing is just like, yeah, there's kind of messages in there that Vinay is trying to portray, but ultimately the stories are kind of nonsense, and I think they're meant to be. They're kind of be like, oh, they're not based on truth. And I think the Lego specials overall, at least for my headcanon, is like, maybe a version of this happened. I don't know, Graballa the Hutt turning Vader's castle into an all access luxury resort. I mean, it could happen. It's possible. I think maybe under slightly different version of that actually happened in this fictional universe.
Maybe Poe showed up there and Graballa had set that place up as his own palace. Like that's if there's a true quote unquote version of the story, maybe that's it. But for the Lego, when go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was gonna say when the story gets retold by Dean and his friends, several days down along, it wasn't that they showed up and Graballa had set up a palace for himself. It was that Graballa was building a luxury hotel. Which, by the way, there were lots of jokes about luxury hotels and the commercialization of places and all that stuff. And it seemed to be done without a shred of irony that Disney is literally building this place with Galaxy's Edge and Galactic Star Cruiser. I found those scenes funny, but at the same time, I'm like, we're laughing, but this is going on by the same people who are making these jokes.
It's almost like Spaceballs level jokes with the gift shop and everything like that.
It's like the jokes are funny, but they're not subversive because the people who are doing it signed off on this. They were like, yeah, that's fine. Make fun of it. Which, it's good to have a sense of humor, but still.
I think between these two specials and then all of the Star Wars Visions that we got a few weeks ago, this concept that you have, Dominic, of canon, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's really, there's a lot of evidence stacking up in that and on that team, because it's we've gotten now 2 specials and 9 short films that are all not canon. So there's 11 not canon things that have come out in the past year, and they're some of the best stuff that's come out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and if you care about canon, they can all still be these are the stories that people tell within the universe. If you want canon to matter, that's how you can make it work. But at the end of the day, they're great stories. They don't fit into the canon, and in a sense, that gives them that makes them even better because they can just be whatever they want to be.
There's so much talking about that fear and that courage. I feel like there's a lot of fear when writers sit down to write canon Star Wars. They're afraid of screwing up because it's canon. They can't undo it.
Yeah.
It's sad because I think so many people. I think you have the question anytime anything like this comes up: is it canon? Is it canon? It's a legitimate question to ask for just a normal person to go like, does this fit into continuity or not? Is this something that is that I'm going to rely on? I'm going to remember this when the next Star Wars movie comes out. Grabala Hutt's going to come back and all this kind of stuff. Obviously that's not the case. But I think most people, basically, is it canon has become shorthand for does it matter? Does this actually matter? And really, that's a question only you can answer, because really it just means, does it matter to you? And to me, this stuff matters whether it's canon or not. It matters. It's fun content that maybe not doesn't fit into the whole universe, but it's enjoyable and it has something to say. And as we're talking about here, it has moral messages that are in line with Star Wars. On top of being very funny and very entertaining and very well done, it's also got something to say. And I think that's got Star Wars written all over it. And who cares if it's canon? It matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The question about is it good? Is Star Wars good? The answer should not be because it's canon. It should be because it, like you said, it entertained me, and it had a good message. That at the end of the day is the original trilogy in a nutshell. It entertained me, and it had a good message. There you go. That's Star Wars, and that's the same thing with the prequels, and honestly, the sequels and the standalones and all that stuff too. Whatever you like in Star Wars tends to be good, tends to entertain you, and it tends to speak to you on some deeper level. And I hate that every conversation gets sidetracked into canon, by the way. I hate everything that comes out is canon this and canon that. It was entertaining. We had fun with it.
Well, yeah. Well, no, that's kind of the point, though, that I'm trying to make here. Because, at the very least, I would hope that some of the people listening to our podcast will be making Star Wars at some point in their life.
Yes.
If that's their dream.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Nice.
Listening to this now, you will make Star Wars one day.
That's right. So it's like, we want to I want to get it across that we like this. And one of the reasons why we like this is because it's not constrained. Like, that's one of the reasons why it's good. Because, if Lucasfilm had said, okay, you can make a Star Wars Lego special, but it's got to be canon. It's got to be consistent with everything in canon. And then it has to fit the same style as other animated stuff. It just could be Lego. It's not going to be as good. So it's like, I think that between these two specials and the 9 Visions episodes, there's a resounding message that we like stuff that is less constrained by the rules, and we want to see even more of that. And I hope somebody's listening that can make that happen at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the terrifying tales themselves. Do you guys have a favorite of the 3, or even 4, if we want to include the Poe story? Like, which one? At what point in this were you most enjoying it? What stood out to you?
I was on the edge of my seat during the Kylo, the Ben Solo one the most, because I was just like, what are they gonna do? Like, because again, it was just, the other ones, they're taking stories we already have and like really like twisting them up. But like with that one, it's really a story that we don't have. Like, we just have a couple flashbacks, that's it. But we don't know much about his childhood and his upbringing and his training with Luke. There's so little we know about that. So I was just like, it's something that I would love to see again in canon. So like to see Lego go there, I was just like, oh, this is really cool. I want to see what their take on this is with their own signature humor and wackiness. And so like, yeah, that story really pulled me in. I was very I was very entertained by it and very enthralled by it.
Yeah, a couple of things stood out to me in that one. Like, one, I had a similar thought about, it's kind of wild that Lego is the first place we're seeing like this story being told. That's pretty crazy. But the other things were, I love that they keep portraying Ben Solo as like an emo teen. It would be like, it's not a phase, Mom. I love that. And but the other thing was, and this is just a question I have for the Lego people. Why when they're having like the visions with the angel on his shoulder, devil on the other one, and then Han Solo shows up and Princess Leia, and it's like, hey, we're having dinner. Why is it old Han and young Leia? Did they not have a General Leia minifigure laying around like from the Force Awakens? Like,
were they trying to create a connection with the fact that they had young Leia and the other story?
I don't know.
They wanted to use the same figure so we could connect. The audience could connect. This is the same person. That's one thing I can think of.
Yeah, maybe
they didn't have the budget to make an old Leia and a young Leia.
But there's Force Awakens Lego Leias exist. They could have easily, they could have animated one of those, surely. But I just found that odd. In addition to just, I'm in awe of the fact that they got Christian Slater to play Ren. Like, what the hell is that? How did that happen? But good stuff. Ben, what about you? Which one stood out to you the most?
Well, yeah, I did love the Ben Solo one. The one that really got to me was the kind of the alternate Luke story.
That was cool.
And just the whole idea of and you could, like we were talking about what ifs, you could easily think, what if Luke went to the Imperial Academy? What would happen? It's kind of realistic, I feel like. It's kind of, it's like, of course, that's kind of what happened. But it really got to me when, they're doing the trench run, and Leia's in an X-Wing, and Ben Kenobi's in an X-Wing. And I'm like, what is this? This is great. And I love the whole, get go, Ben. Can't do any more good back there. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But, that whole sequence was great. I think just having that whole what-if scenario, I think, was really fun. And I would love to see more. Let's do it though. Let's make it. It's not just Star Wars what if. It's Star Wars Lego what if. And just with this Lego Star Wars humor, but just a what if scenario. I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing as you guys talked about the other two, I suppose I should mention the Maul Grievous one, although that was my least favorite one. It was fun. It had some funny moments. All of Maul's different legs were pretty good. And I do think there was a missed opportunity to have a Monty Python reference when Grievous had all of his arms and his legs disappeared. I saw him there and I'm like, he should say, I want to hear Grievous say, "'Tis but a flesh wound." That's all I wanted to hear. They
something about Grievous. They say Grievous's actual name in here. That's the first time on screen we've seen that. Is that not heard that?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. That sounds. Yeah, I can't think of any other place.
That's out of wherever that lore is from. I think it's like a comic book or something. But I mean, I've seen it on the Wikipedia for all my life, so I know.
Right.
I love that they drew that parallel between Maul and Grievous. That they're different. We've always heard that that Sidious's or the villains through the prequels are taking you closer and closer to Darth Vader, and I had never made that connection between Maul and Grievous. That these are two people that are so. Grievous technically, doesn't use the Force, doesn't know the dark side, but they so believe in that dark side way of life that they cling to death and they cling to life in the face of death and are willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to life, even if that means embracing evil, which is the way of the Sith, as we know. So
that kind of makes me sad that we never got an actual Grievous versus Maul duel in
would have been cool.
Clone Wars. That would have been a great matchup. But we got it here. I'll take this.
It was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen because it's in Son of Dathomir. The comic book,
right? Because they do cross paths, don't they?
Yeah,
it was. Maul captures Grievous, doesn't he?
Yeah. Something. I can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember Son of Dathomir off the back of my hand. But it's.
I have to look it up.
But I know they meet and they fight in that. So had Clone Wars continued in 2013, had we gotten season 7 back then, it probably would have happened in there, or season 6 if season 6 had been a full 22 episodes. So. Interesting stuff. So yeah, would have been good. I loved Poe and BB-8 in their Halloween costumes. Poe with the with the skeleton thing, and BB-8 like a pumpkin.
Trooper.
That was great.
Yeah, those were good. Tony Hale as Vane, terrific. Another just genius bit of casting. that was pretty great. Yeah, I love the way, there was all that talk about prophecy and only a certain mechanic would be able to open the door, or a pilot would be able to open the door. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, is Rey gonna have to show up in this thing? Because this is all describing Rey better than it's describing Poe. And so I like that little bit of misdirect that they're trying to make you think, oh, Poe's the one that they want, Poe's the guy they need, when in reality it was that kid Dean. Nice, like that kid who's now gonna go off and train with Rey and Broom Boy.
What is Dean backwards? Need. Who's Need? I guess that one's not a reference.
No.
There's a theory. People have been talking on our Twitter specifically that Dean is a Freemaker. He's like a descendant of the Freemakers from Joe.
So when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, that's Rowan Freemaker in there. I thought like, oh, they're bringing the Freemakers into this. But no.
I think there was someone tweeted at us, and then they tagged Pablo, and then Pablo was like, "Yeah, it might make sense." So maybe it's kind of canon.
Okay. Joel in our chat saying the big reveal in episode 12 is that Dean is a Palpatine. And it kind of rhymes. Dean Palpatine.
Yeah, it does.
That sounds like Palpatine's like his cousin that goes door to door selling encyclopedias. Hello, Dean Palpatine here. Have you been looking?
I'm pretty sure that was Rey's dad's name, Dean Palpatine. Pretty
Dean
sure.
Palpatine. Yeah. It's good stuff. All right, so let's wrap things up with talking about Terrifying Tales, and we'll wrap things up how we would do on those other shows with final thoughts and scores out of 10. So, Chris, over to you first. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Let's see. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Like, I thought it was good. It was always entertaining. It's not something that I wanted to watch like 3 times in a row, though. So I still stand by. I do like the holiday special last year a little bit better than this one, but it still was very solid, and it still was good enough for me to want them to keep doing this. Like, I think it's good quality content and really interesting, and throwing in now this kind of what if idea into Lego is very intriguing. So I'd love to see where that's going to take them with future Lego content, because I think that is just, if not more interesting than some of the kind of original stories like Freemaker that they put out. So I think this is brilliant. So yeah, 8 out of 10, very solid special, a lot of great stuff.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with the 8 out of 10 rating. I think, a lot of really strong humor per usual, but some strong storytelling too. And like you said, some very strong moral messages, some things and stuff that you would hope. And I just love the whole thing after sequel trilogy. I think getting into that era, even in this small, perhaps not official canon way of like continuing the story of the sequel trilogy, I'm like, give it all to me. I'm ready. And just seeing Poe and BB-8 having an adventure, I think that's prime. I want a whole series, just them just doing their thing.
That'd be awesome.
Poe dressing up in different ways and doing all the kind of stuff. But yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah,
I really enjoy this one.
I want a Star Wars series about Poe and BB-8 where every episode Poe goes undercover and he needs a new disguise. But it's always holiday themed. So, 1 week's Halloween, next week you got Christmas, on and on like that.
Gotta walk around with bunny ears, and BB-8's dressed up like an egg, for Easter. Yeah.
I mean, you joke, but like next year, we're going to need another one of these things next year. So,
I would imagine they're working on the next 2 right now. Like it's
I'm sure. Oh, it's gotta be. Yeah, for me, I'll round it out. We'll go 8s across the board. I like you guys. I really enjoyed this one. For context, I think I would give the holiday special last year like a 12 out of 10.
I really like that.
I really love that thing. That thing is it's incredible, and this had a extraordinarily high bar to live up to, and just because it didn't quite reach the same heights doesn't mean it's not worthy. And it was a very entertaining 45 minutes of Lego Star Wars action. I think it was. I think it was good. It was just good. It was good. It was fun. It had some good jokes. I laughed out loud a couple of different times, and like I said, it had that message. So a nice solid 8 out of 10. And yeah, I look forward to the Easter special next year and the Arbor Day special the year after that, and maybe we can have a New Year's Eve special. One of these.
They better do a St. Patty's Day special.
Oh yes, let's go. Let's go. They got to get
Grogu.
They gotta get Donald Gleason back for that, and we'll have some fun. Fun. So there it is. That's Valentine's Day. There you go. There's another one.
Yeah.
There's another one. There's lots of love and
potential.
Lot of love in Star Wars. It could do another like three specials. Like 3 little mini stories in there. You could do like Anakin and Padme, Han and Leia. You want to really mess with people? Also do Han and Kira.
It's Lego. There's gonna be
it's a love triangle.
If someone's gonna do Finn and Poe first, it's gonna be Lego at this point. So
Finn, Poe, yeah. You can do that. Get throw in some Raylo if you want. All of it.
Double date.
Lego.
Finn, Poe, Raylo.
Lego would be the first one to have Satine and Obi-Wan on screen.
Ooh. Now that would be good.
Although, as you said, Chris, the double date of Finn, Poe, Rey, Kylo, like that, like an awkward double date where like 3 of them are friends and one of them used to be their enemy. That feels like right up Lego's street. Like they could do so much with that.
Everybody tweet Lego.
Yeah.
It has to happen
now I'm gonna be mad if they don't do that next year. Like that's where we're at.
Oh man, yeah. Frog Lady and Frog Husband. I like that suggestion from the chat. I think that's good. All right, let's keep moving. Let's get into some news this week, and we'll start with a big announcement today, actually, as we record this on Thursday, about the future of Star Wars publishing. This was on StarWars.com. We've got 4 new Star Wars novels announced for 2022. 2 of them are quote-unquote adult novels from Del Rey. The other 2 are varying degrees of young readers, so it might be YA or middle grade, something like that, from Disney Lucasfilm Press. We'll start with the Del Rey novels because they will and have already gotten the most attention. The first of which is called Shadow of the Sith. It's written by Adam Christopher. It comes out June 28th and is available for pre-order now. And listen to this description. This is the official publisher's description. Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian return in this essential novel set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. The Empire is dead. Nearly 2 decades on from the Battle of Endor, the tattered remnants of Palpatine's forces have fled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only one, for now. But for the heroes of the New Republic, danger and loss are ever-present companions, even in this newly forged era of peace. Jedi Master Luke Skywalker is haunted by visions of the dark side, foretelling an ominous secret growing somewhere in the depths of space on a dead world called Exegol. The disturbance in the Force is undeniable, and Luke's worst fears are confirmed when his old friend Lando Calrissian comes to him with reports of a new Sith menace. After his daughter was stolen from his arms, Lando searched the stars for any trace of his lost child, but every new rumor only led to dead ends and fading hopes until he crossed paths with Ochi of Bestoon, a Sith assassin tasked with kidnapping a young girl. Ochi's true motives remain shrouded to Luke and Lando, for on a junkyard moon, a mysterious envoy of the Sith Eternal has bequeathed a secret blade to the assassin, promising that it will give him the answers to the questions that have haunted him since the Empire fell. In exchange, he must complete a final mission: return to Exegol with the key to the Sith's glorious rebirth. The granddaughter of Darth Sidious himself. I can't read that word. Oh, it's a mystery. We won't know who that is. No, it's Rey. It's Rey. As Ochi hunts Rey and her parents to the edge of the galaxy, Luke and Lando race into the mystery of the Sith's lingering shadow and aid a young family running for their lives.
Wow.
There it is. So for all of you that left The Rise of Skywalker going, hey, that Luke and Lando story sounds pretty interesting. I wonder what was going on with that Ochi of Bestoon fella. There you go. Secrets of the Sith, June 28th, 2022 by Adam Christopher. You will get your answers. Yeah, that is an interesting sounding book. It really is fulfilling the role that tie-in fiction so often does, which is taking something that is alluded to in the films and suggested in the films and expanding it out in a big, broad way.
This is, for some reason in my head, I always want them to do what they did with like Catalyst and like New Dawn and kind of like have these stories first and then do the movie after that. So I'm a little annoyed. I'm like, I wish we had this book came out between episode 8 and 9. But then again, it's like, well, then you're going to have potentially that big reveal about Rey in a book and not a movie. So I understand, I guess this is why they're holding off. Tell those stories. So, but I'm glad that they're filling in the gaps because this is, I feel like, what the sequel era needs. There's so many books that take place in other eras. There's so many Disney Plus series that take place in other eras. The sequel trilogy needs so much more fleshing out with its plot lines and its characters. And I think this is a great way to do that. This is an awesome story to tell, and I think it's great that it's in this era. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the advantage of releasing the book after the movie, and so significantly after the movie, like almost 3 years later, is that you can, enough time has passed that you can really dive into those all of those ideas. There will be no tiptoeing around reveals or dancing between raindrops trying to escape or trying to tell a compelling story while also preserving the reveals that are coming in the movie. And so now you can tell this whole story about not just Luke and Lando, but also Rey and potentially her family and what goes on there. And is Luke gonna meet Rey's parents? Could that happen in this story? Like there's a lot of things there's a lot of things that could go down in this. The other thing I found interesting about it was that they're still running with the whole Lando's daughter subplot that was cut from the movie. That's not in The Rise of Skywalker. It was going to be, and it was going to be suggested that Jannah is his daughter, and it'll be interesting to see if they follow through on that part of the story.
Please do, because that's gonna make that scene so much less weird. It's like cutting most of the exposition of that story, but then leaving in little traces of it in the movie was just like one of the more strange choices.
That's one of the things that I'm like, okay, this movie should have been 3 hours long because I think it would have benefited that, and I think that
or just take that scene out. It doesn't need to be there. You're just like, what? Why?
Well, like that scene is there to give those characters a final moment in the celebration, because like all of the other named characters and main characters, whether it's Rey, Finn, and Poe, R2, 3PO, all of those characters, Zori, they all get their moments on the base of celebrating. Chewbacca, obviously, they get their moment celebrating, and if you cut that scene, there may have been a segment of the audience going, hey, what happened to Lando and Jannah? But instead, the solution could have been shoot something else.
Exactly.
Give those guys another moment instead of trying to repurpose this abandoned plot line.
If you've decided that you're going to cut out a whole plot line, then cut it all out and reshoot. Don't cut some of it out and leave other parts for other reasons and then have it be confusing.
It definitely works way better with the hindsight of knowing that subplot is there. Apparently is there, not was there, but it's still there, just we don't see it in the movie.
If I didn't know about that, I would to this day be just like, every time that scene would come on, I'd be like, what is going on?
It wouldn't shock me if when this book comes out it's either left still ambiguous whether Janna is Lando's daughter, or whether we find out that Lando's daughter is somebody else.
Oh my gosh, I would be so mad.
It wouldn't genuinely. It wouldn't shock me if either of those happened. It also wouldn't shock me if we find out that Janna is Lando's daughter. Like any of these situations wouldn't shock me, but I could see it playing out multiple different ways.
That would be the weirdest situation, because then you have this whole adjacent headcanon from the earlier version of the movie that fixes what we saw, and then gets destroyed, and then it makes it worse.
This is why I don't like to rely on the books and stuff to quote unquote fix the movie, because I know what happened. I know that when the movie came out, they left this weird scene in at the end. And even if I didn't know why that scene was shot, I'd still know, okay, that scene was just weird. And I would remember that feeling every time I saw the movie again. I wouldn't watch the movie next week and after the week after reading this book where it's revealed that Janna is, yes, she is Janna Calrissian. I wouldn't look at that scene and go, now it all makes sense. They are father and daughter. It works. It's brilliant. J.J. Abrams, you are a master. I wouldn't do that, because I'd still remember how I felt the first time. That said, they should still tell this story. They should still absolutely tell this story, but it doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't quote unquote fix anything.
I mean, again, it's kind of like my feelings towards Snoke directly quoting Palpatine in The Last Jedi. It's the same thing. It's like it kind of half fixes it, that now we know that the Palpatine was kind of saying those words through him. That half fixes it, but at the same time, again, it's like the opposite situation where the reality of what actually happened in the real world is what makes me still feel weird when I see that scene, because I'm like, they didn't actually know what they were doing at that point.
And clearly, through what we get of that storyline, they weren't going to confirm it, because that's the last scene, and that's the two of them together, and he's like, well, let's find out. And that's it's not in the context of the movie. It's not. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But once you know it, it's there, and it's like, okay, they really weren't going to confirm it. So would the book go back and confirm it?
The more I think about it, that scene makes it so she can't be his daughter, because she's like, where are you from? And he's like, the gold system, or wherever he's from. And then he asks her, where are you from? And she says, I don't know. And he says, well, let's find out. That to me suggests that they're not, that in the end, JJ didn't want us to think they were related.
But the question is, were those lines said by those amazing actors who were very underutilized? Were they said before or after the decisions were made to cut that whole thing?
Okay, so I think back to Star Wars Celebration, right? And they're in that really weird panel that they did on Friday morning promoting this movie. And Stephen Colbert, the great Stephen Colbert, asked Naomi Ackie, are you Lando's daughter? And she danced around this question, sort of saying, well, Lando's so cool, he could have children all over the galaxy, and then sort of said no, but didn't, and sort of tiptoed around it all. I wonder if they shot that scene twice. Once where they went, father-daughter reunited, how wonderful it is. And another version that we saw where it's like, hey, what if we went on adventures afterwards and tried to figure out where I'm from? What if we did that? And we released it on a streaming service someday, somewhere, on a plus.
Oh my God.
A Disney Plus.
If they had the opportunity to rewrite that and that's what they came up with, that makes me even more depressed.
Well, and you have to, you're talking about a series here. You have to consider the fact that the Lando series, we've got no confirmation of when it's set, who's going to be in it. It could bring back Billy D. It could be some of it at least set after the Rise of Skywalker, and we could see Naomi Ackie come back. My my natural reading of that scene at the end of Rise of Skywalker, weirdness aside, putting all the baggage of behind the scenes drama aside, my reading of it is that whether they're biologically related, that they're actually father and daughter, or they're not, it doesn't matter. The whole point of the trilogy is found family. It's about, it's not about blood. It's about, choosing your own destiny. And the whole thing is Lando lost a daughter, Jana lost a family. Now they have each other, and they can go off into the galaxy and help all these people who have been displaced find their families, or at least find a family that accepts them.
I like that. I like that read on it, Ben. I think that's the way to go. It's the whole sequel trilogy summed up.
So I don't
in that moment. So
confirm it. I don't want the book to confirm it. I like the way the movie leads it.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I like that. I wish it were, as with so many things in that movie, I wish it were done better. But I like that reading on it. I think that's good. I think that works.
If I just settled on this is how it is, this is how the movie gave it to me, I would drive myself insane. I have to think it through and retcon it and make it make sense, because that's what I've been doing all of my life. Because things have never made sense in a lot of Star Wars movies.
Yes.
And I just made it work. So Rise of Skywalker was just like the final straw of like, okay, I've done this before. I've done this for Sifo Dyas. What's going on with that guy? Okay, I'm gonna make it up and just make it make sense.
Yeah, Ben's been like, I've been doing. Ben's like an old person, an old guy at the end of it. He's like, I've been doing this since you were 6 years old, man. I know how to make a Star Wars movie make sense.
Palpatine, what's up with that? Well, back in my day.
Yeah. I want to go back to a comment we had in the chat if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. Jesse
forgot what we were talking about. By the way.
Yeah, Jesse. Yeah, we're lost in character work now. Jesse Bennett says, "Will this be pre or post Mando? Could Grogu get mentioned?" This I believe would be post Mando.
Yeah,
and presumably this would
20
take
years after Jedi.
Yeah, so presumably this would take place when Luke has his academy, and Ben Solo could even be training there, and Grogu could absolutely still be around. And obviously it's the same issue that we were talking about before with why this book didn't come out before The Rise of Skywalker. Obviously anything that relates to the Mandalorian will only be alluded to and referenced in passing in this book, because obviously Mando season 3 is coming out sometime in the same year as this book. So they'll keep it a little bit ambiguous, but I don't see any reason why we can't have a little passing reference to a young student at Luke's academy.
What I think needs to happen is there just needs to be one scene, and it's Luke on his mission. He's really intense. He's into this. He's fighting Ochi at best, and he gets a call from Ben Solo. And Ben's like, Uncle Luke, look, one of the students looks like a frog, and Grogu tried to eat him.
Uncle Luke, Grogu's been eating my cookies again. He took them, and he won't give them back. We won't give him back. And Luke's like, I don't have time for this. You guys work it out amongst yourselves. Don't make me call Din Djarin again, because I will, and he will show up, and he will whoop both of your asses into shape.
This is why Ben turned to the dark side. There's no question about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hey, look, Adam Christopher, who's writing this book, was supposed to write the Mandalorian tie-in novel, so
there you go.
Maybe. So that's just I think that's the most time we've ever spent speculating on a novel.
That was one, it's an extremely fascinating premise, and two, it was a very detailed synopsis that sounds like it's basically the plot of the whole book.
Yeah, it does. It does. So that's just book 1 of the announcements. Book 2 of the announcements. It's not like a sequel. It's not a sequel to that, but it's the second announcement. Also a Del Rey book. It's by Mike Chen. It's called Brotherhood, and it comes out May 10th, 2022. So actually, before that other one, before Secrets of the Sith, you get Brotherhood next year.
It's Shadow of the Sith.
Shadow of the whatever it's called.
It's not.
Shadow
it's
of the
not
Sith.
It's not that line from the
Brotherhood
Rise
of the Sith.
Brotherhood of the Sith. No, it's Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher, June 28th. Yeah. That's the first first one we talked about. The second one we're talking about, which comes out first because we're Star Wars podcast, so we can't do things in order. It's called Brotherhood. It's by Mike Chen. Here's the description. Yeah, it's about as long as the other one. So settle in. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker must stem the tide of the raging Clone Wars and forge a new bond as Jedi Knights. The Clone Wars have begun. Battle lines are being drawn throughout the galaxy. With every world that joins the Separatists, the peace guarded by the Jedi Orders is slipping through their fingers. After an explosion devastates Cato Nemoidia, the jewel of the Trade Federation, the Republic is blamed and the fragile neutrality of the planet is threatened. The Jedi dispatch Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the Order's most gifted diplomatic minds, to investigate the crime and maintain the balance that has begun to dangerously shift. As Obi-Wan investigates with the help of a heroic Nemoidian guard, who he finds himself working against the Separatists, who hope to draw the planet into their conspiracy, and senses the sinister hand of Asajj Ventress in the mists that cloak the planet. Amid the brewing chaos, Anakin Skywalker rises to the rank of Jedi Knight, despite the mandate that Obi-Wan travel alone and his former master's insistence that he listen this time. Anakin's headstrong determination means nothing can stop him from crashing the party and bringing along a promising but conflicted youngling. Once a Padawan to Obi-Wan, Anakin now finds himself on an equal but uncertain footing with the man who raised him. The lingering friction between them increases the danger for everyone around them. The two knights must learn a new way to work together, and they must learn quickly to save Cato Nemoidia and its people from the fires of war. To overcome the threat they face, they must grow beyond master and apprentice. They must stand together as brothers. So, a couple of things. This is another story that's kind of filling in a gap that was left by the films, which is how did Anakin, or what was it like when Anakin went from the rank of Padawan to the rank of Master, which is, or Knight. Sorry, he never gets to be a Master. I know, prequel memers, settle down. You don't have to remind me. He becomes a Jedi Knight. That's very exciting. And, it will finally answer the question that what was that business on Cato Nemoidia that doesn't count. So we'll finally find out. We'll see what that was. Interesting release date for this, an Obi-Wan Kenobi story coming out next year in May. May. I wonder what other Obi-Wan Kenobi stories could there be next year that could potentially be released in May. Perhaps on a day that sounds like a Star Wars quote. Like, may the 4th be with you. I was trying to think of another Star Wars quote that involved a day, and I couldn't think of a good one. So I was like, I just had to go with the regular. I had to go with the classic, with the actual answer. I genuinely, I think this will be released as kind of a tie-in to Kenobi.
That show makes sense. And you got the cover. Once we see the cover, if there's Ewan all over the cover, then we know.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing. This one's interesting because I feel like elements of this story have been told in prior non-canon stories now. Like I think there's some comic books and novels, and even a bit of the micro series.
Yeah,
covered some of this stuff. So I think it's intriguing that they're kind of going and. I mean, this is the point where, like, I feel like they're redoing something. Like, this doesn't feel like a completely new story. It feels like a reboot of a story that we've gotten before in a lot of ways. So it's intriguing to me. I think it's important that they do that because all those other stories that touched on this era of their lives most of those are not canon anymore because they mainly came out in the 2000s. So that makes sense that they'd want to bring that into canon. But it's also intriguing that it's a very good example of something being reimagined in a sense, because that, unlike the sequel era where we've got all of these amazing stories coming out, both canonically in book form and not in Lego form, this era is very dense. Like the Clone Wars era there are many novels and many comic books, and even that not
7 seasons.
And then of course But I mean, I'm saying it's dense outside of canon. It's dense in the Legends universe. So it's interesting that they're bouncing around in there where you have all that to pull from, and it's very interesting that you have Asajj Ventress coming in there because I know she had something to do with his knighting. I think
in the micro series,
yeah. So I'm wondering if how much of that they're gonna kind of retell directly versus come up with other reasons why things happen. So that's interesting to me too.
Yeah, I wonder, like, it says in the description that, Anakin rises to the rank of Jedi Knight. I sort of wonder if, like, that's the opening scene of the movie, of the book, is like Anakin's knighthood. You begin with that, and then you send Obi-Wan off on his adventure, and you kind of have the A story and the B story of Obi-Wan on Cato Nemoidia and Anakin dealing with the fact that he couldn't go along on the adventure, and then eventually going and joining, and that's when the A story and the B story converge. I kind of wonder if that's the case. But yeah, reading, it's sort of interesting reading the two descriptions for the two books. Like for the sequel era one, it's like, aha, answers to the questions that we've been asking for so long. Whereas with the Clone Wars era one, there's everything about it feels familiar, right? The sort of the politics of it, the Anakin Obi-Wan relationships, the characters, all of that stuff. And so it sort of feels like it's just sort of like, oh, we're just diving into an era and we're taking what's already there and we're going to put a new spin on it rather than trying to build new ground, trying to build a new era up. And both are exciting in their own ways. Obviously, we have a lot of questions about like what the sequel era is like. And so to get some of those answers in book form will be very exciting. But with this one, I read it and I hear all these things about like, Cato Nemoidia as a neutral planet. It's like, we know that's like not the case in reality, but they put on that face of being neutral. And one of the things that is really interesting about the Clone Wars era is all of the politics of like, the trade. We know the Trade Federation are absolutely in league with the Separatists. They were like the first ones to sign on with Darth Sidious back in the day in Phantom Menace. Right. But the whole time they're pretending to be neutral or pretending not to have a dog in the fight. I love the season 3 episode Supply Lines where you have the senator for the Trade Federation, Lot Dodd. Yeah, you're Senator Ben.
He's named after my senator, literally.
Yeah,
my old senator.
Your old senator. Yeah, and you have him showing up and trying to tell King Katunko, the Toydarians, like why they can't do something because it would violate all these treaties that the Trade Federation as a member of the Republic still adheres to. And so you had this sort of interesting song and dance that Bail and Jar Jar and everybody in that episode were trying to, figure out ways around it. And that was something that was really interesting about that era was, we knew that people were playing both sides and we knew that people were really in league with one side and pretending to be in league with the other side. And I think I feel like there's still more fertile ground to be, sowed. I don't know. It's a stupid metaphor. There's more opportunities there to continue telling those stories and exploring those ideas. And I find that exciting. And I think that's something that I loved about the prequel era and the Clone Wars era in particular, that has been a little bit missing from everything else. Even the sequel era and the original trilogy era don't quite have that same level of depth to them. We haven't explored the politics of those eras quite in the same ways just yet. High Republic is still laying the groundwork, and maybe in phase 3 we could have similar situations where we know things aren't what they seem, but they're still laying the groundwork, so they haven't reached that point yet. And Clone Wars is really the only place to do a story that is sort of this much of a political thriller, because all of the world building is already there. So now you can just take that and go, all right, within this, here is a story, go. And that's, I think, what Mike Chen is doing with Brotherhood. And I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the most intriguing part of this is clearly a very character-based story. And it's about that relationship between those two guys. And, like, I think that's interesting because you get a little bit of stuff in the films. It's expanded on a good amount more in the Clone Wars, but I feel like the Clone Wars series, its main goal wasn't to really flesh out Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship. It was more to show their friendship in a positive sense, but it didn't do a lot to show the negatives of their relationships. Not as much as the films did. The films were very particular about we got to show why this split happened and why they ended up fighting each other, because it needed to make sense by the time you got to that point of Revenge of the Sith. So I'm curious with this book, because it's talking about, it seems like the whole story is built around tension and friction and awkwardness, and that transitional period of going from master and apprentice to master and knight. I'm curious to see what the balance is there of showing the positive sides of their relationship and the negative sides, the parts that are starting to deteriorate. I'm very curious to see that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if this book is a tie-in with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, or even if it's a kind of sort of tie-in, like not officially branded as a tie-in, but still, like let's hypothesize. Let's say episode 1 of Kenobi comes out May 4th. This book comes out May 10th. So you're probably conceivably someone could be reading this book at the same time that they're watching the series for the first time. That's probably an interesting experience, right? Because so much of that series is going to be defined by the Anakin Obi-Wan relationship, or the Obi-Wan Vader relationship, to be more specific. And a lot of the pain that Obi-Wan feels, we presume, at the beginning of the series and between episodes 3 and 4, is about his failure with Anakin. And this book will kind of show their entire relationship within one story, because it would likely will begin and they'll still be in a very Attack of the Clones place where they're kind of at each other's throats, not really getting along. And it will probably end in a place where they're that legendary brotherhood that we always heard about, or that you imagine when you hear about them in the original trilogy, and that we see in the Clone Wars. So it starts in kind of the bad place that the films show, where they are really at each other's throats, and ends in kind of the good place where that the Clone Wars show, and it will show the transition from one to the other. And so we'll see all of the various different layers and the different ways their relationship has worked. So when you're seeing Obi-Wan thinking back to the days with Anakin, or dealing with the fact that he now has to confront Anakin as Vader, you'll have a really full picture of how of what that relationship meant to him at the various stages, because they will have seen all the various stages, or seen a lot of them within this book. And so I think, if Kenobi winds up getting pushed back to, September or something, like something happens, whatever, I don't know anything. But hypothetically that could happen. And this book comes out ahead of time, I think it still works, because it'll be in your head. If you read it earlier in the year and then see the show later in the year, you'll have seen that relationship fairly recently on the page, and then you'll be dealing with the repercussions of it on the screen shortly thereafter, relatively speaking.
It's a thing that I just thought about in regards to, like, we never really see Obi-Wan training Anakin, if you think about it. It's like you kind of get him, you get a bit of it in Attack of the Clones, them kind of bouncing off each other, showing how much they annoy each other.
This weapon is your life. I know that's
exactly. And then you get the best friends. And the Clone Wars is like, it starts with like, they're very comfortable in the master former apprentice roles. They're the best friends that we've heard about all this time. It wasn't really like you said, Chris, like it wasn't about that. It was more about like, okay, their relationship is kind of the rock, and then you have Ahsoka. That's the apprentice dynamic that we're getting into. So if you're thinking about it in the context of the Kenobi show, it could be, what if Obi-Wan's on Tatooine? He's lamenting what happened. He's thinking back, going, where did I go wrong? Where did it start? What did I do to deserve all this? Where did I go wrong with Anakin that led him to this? And he probably would go back to his training. And maybe that's where some of the flashbacks will be, or maybe where this book will tie in with is getting to that point where he lets him go and lets him be a Jedi Knight and finishes his training, quote unquote. But things don't go as planned, and we know they're not on the best of terms in Attack of the Clones. Really, they're not. Getting more of that, I think, would be very interesting. I think they are really great friends in Clone Wars and into Revenge of the Sith, but getting more of that dynamic of like, yeah, these guys are kind of messed up, and you get a little bit of that in Clone Wars. You get the bounty hunter arc, the Reiko Hardeen. There's some distrust there, obviously. But there's nothing really between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I think in a book, can do that a whole lot better. Can get into the psyche of these characters and go like, okay, what's really going on? What is Anakin thinking? What is Obi-Wan thinking? That's going to be interesting. And the fact that it's set, because I was thinking like, oh, is this set, in the waning days of the Clone Wars? Is this after season 7? No, it's not after season 7, but like in the gap between season 6 and 7. But no, this is prior to that. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's right at the start. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't believe this will happen, but a wild crossover between the show and the book is, what if we read the book and then we watch the show? There's a flashback to the business on Cato Nemoidia that doesn't count.
I don't think that's prime picking for the show to do.
It could be
like, okay, we're gonna do a flashback. Let's show that scene.
Yeah. It could be interesting. One thing I'm wondering about is the youngling that Anakin brings along. I want it to be Ahsoka, but I don't think it will be.
Too early.
Yeah, this feels like this is pre-Clone Wars movie. So
yeah,
I'm curious how they will deal with that, and how this Padawan will deal into the plot, and what they're going to be doing.
Let it be the kid that says, Master Skywalker. There's too many of
Oh
them.
no.
What are we going to do?
No. Here's my best friend.
Yeah. All right. May 10th, 2022, Brotherhood by Mike Chen from Del Rey Publishing. That's the book we've been talking about. There's still a couple more books that have been announced. Next up, we've got Stories of Jedi and Sith. This is from Disney Lucasfilm Press, and it will be released on June 7th, 2022. It's edited by Jennifer Heddle. This is the description. The battle between good and evil never ends. The brave Jedi, the devious Sith, these iconic heroes and villains embody the struggle between light and dark that is at the very heart of Star Wars. In this exciting middle-grade anthology, 10 acclaimed authors imagine all new tales for some of the saga's most popular characters, from Luke Skywalker to Darth Vader, from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Asajj Ventress and beyond, complete with beautiful spot illustrations, epic standoffs, cunning plots, courageous action, and ruthless anger are all here in this showcase of the enduring power of one of the greatest movie sagas of all time. Included are stories from the following author: Roseanne A. Brown, Sarwat Chadha, Delilah S. Dawson, Tessa Gratton, Michael Kogi, Sam Meggs, Michael Morsi, Alex Segura, Vera Strange, Karen Strong, and there's illustrations by Jake Bartok. So an anthology story of short stories, just set across the Star Wars galaxy. Should be a lot of fun, middle grade, so kind of young reader stuff there. So
sounds a lot like maybe just a smaller version and bit more anthology of like the certain point of view novels.
Yeah.
A bunch of things. I enjoy the certain point of view novels not because all the stories are good, because they're not, but because there's a bunch of them, and you can kind of like, if you're not feeling a story, it doesn't last very long. You can kind of just jump through it and get on to the next story. And I like, it feels like you're doing a lot. And for me, it's listening to a lot in a short span of time.
Yeah. I don't know if the characters for this have been revealed. I'm just checking StarWars.com real quick to see if they have.
While you're doing that, I'll say, like, I'm glad that they're doing more anthology stuff. I agree with Ben. Like, I think the certain point of view is a very brilliant idea, and so I love that they're going off of that and just telling stories around a certain theme. Like, I think that's really cool. So yeah, I hope that they continue putting out more and more stuff that is this style. I like the short story concept, and I like that they're doing it for different age levels too, because a certain point of view is more of a adult or young adult to adult level, I think.
Yeah, I don't see any a character list right now on StarWars.com, so we'll keep moving. But I do agree with the sentiment there that you guys are sharing about more anthology stuff. All right, final book is called Padawan. It's by Kirsten White. It's being published by Disney Lucasfilm Press, and it comes out July 26th, 2022. It's available for pre-order now. Here's the description. Obi-Wan Kenobi struggles with his place in the Force as a young Padawan in this coming-of-age adventure. Obi-Wan Kenobi really wants to be a good Padawan, the best Padawan even. But that's feeling more and more impossible with his new master, Qui-Gon Jinn. All of Obi-Wan's friends are off training to be real Jedi, getting mission experience, while he's still on Coruscant practicing his forms and sitting in silent contemplation. Ever since Qui-Gon's former master, Dooku, left the Order, it feels like Qui-Gon has been too busy to connect with the Force or arguing with the Jedi Council to properly train his Padawan. When Obi-Wan finally convinces Qui-Gon to take him on a mission to a remote planet once explored by an ancient Jedi, his master doesn't show up the morning they are to leave, so Obi-Wan impulsively takes off by himself. Upon arriving on the mysterious lush planet, he encounters a group of teenagers with no adult supervision, and who seem to have some connection with the Force. Free from the constraints of the Order, Obi-Wan joins them in their daring adventure, but the Padawan side keeps him questioning the teens' strange relationship to the Force and to the verdant planet around them, and what all this means for the future. Obi-Wan will test the limits of his relationship to the Jedi and to the Force in this exciting yet soulful exploration of one of Star Wars' most enduring heroes. So, real quick. If Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, doesn't come out around the time of May 10th, I expect it will come out around the time of July 26th. Maybe they're hedging their bets here a little bit with the tie-in material.
Now, curiously, 2 of these books are dealing with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Obi-Wan. Very seems very relevant to all of this, to everything that'll be coming out next year.
And I want to add something really quick. This is Kirsten White on Twitter actually tweeted this out and said, to answer the question I suspect I'll be answering until release, Padawan takes place pre-Master and Apprentice, and thus also pre-Mandalore / Satine. And it's a whole new adventure. So this is very early on in Obi-Wan's life.
It's not a kindergarten romance.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this. I like this concept for a story. I like the rebellious Obi-Wan. This one sounds to me like if the collection of stories of Jedi and Sith is middle grade, Padawan sounds like it's more YA. It's more geared towards teenagers, and I feel like that's an interesting time in Obi-Wan's life that we haven't really ever explored. We know him as the wizened wizard of the original trilogy, or the stoic master of the Clone Wars, or even the Padawan at the end of his training in the Phantom Menace. We never saw the lead up to that, and what they've been doing with Qui-Gon and Dooku and Obi-Wan in the publishing and in the audio stuff in the last couple of years has been really interesting, and the way they've recontextualized some of those relationships and explored them in interesting ways. I think that's really cool, and I think this just feels like more of that, and it will continue to build on what Cavan Scott did in the Dooku audio drama, what Claudia Gray did in Master and Apprentice, and who knows, maybe one day we'll get the Obi-Wan Satine adventure that everyone's been looking forward to.
Yeah, Matthew Hardy brings up an interesting point in the chat that the description sounds similar to the Jedi Apprentice YA novels released between episodes 1 and 2. I remember those.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Those are classic.
Yeah.
Those are classic. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. So there you go. There's 4 new Star Wars books to look forward to next year, in addition to any High Republic or other things that may be coming out later in the year. We don't know just yet. I kind of wonder if Padawan will have a little bit of a tie-in to not Master and Apprentice, to High Republic with some of the stuff they're talking about with the ancient Jedi and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's a pretty solid lineup. We're looking forward to all of those and seeing what they have.
I think it's an indication of how big of a year 2022 is going to be for Star Wars. We're getting a lot of Star Wars books, and that's not all, folks.
Yeah. It might, probably be the biggest Star Wars year ever to not feature a Star Wars film. Because Rogue Squadron is still a year and a half away. Like, so it's not 2023. That's still a long way away, but we'll have
go into production next year. But
we'll probably get some casting and stuff next year.
Yeah.
But
which will make the year feel even bigger.
Yeah. But we'll have at least Book of Boba Fett, as you guys talked about last week, it premieres at the end of this year, so really it's a show for next year. Then there's then we'll see Andor, we'll see Obi-Wan Kenobi, season 2 of Bad Batch, and season 3 of Mando, all next year. Wow. Then throw in these books here. Maybe there's a game or two. Maybe there's a new VR thing. Maybe finally learn something new about Fallen Order 2. That sort of stuff. Like there's a lot. There's a lot coming down the line.
It's funny how 2021 to me, like getting Bad Batch, anticipating Book of Boba Fett, and getting Star Wars Visions has felt pretty full. Like I think it's been a great year so far, but there have been some gaps of like, okay, when's the next Star Wars thing going on? There's not going to be any gaps next year. It's just going to be it's going to be nonstop.
2021, the Star Wars of 2021 was like a good meal at a restaurant. There was a starter, there was a main course, and there's some dessert. You get it all in a nice little thing, and it's all paced out properly, and you walk away going, I feel full. That was great. 2022 is going to be one of those all-you-can-eat buffets. We're just going to be going crazy. Watching Book of Boba Fett, and then Kenobi, Andor, all of this stuff. We'll be eating, constantly shoving more Star Wars into our faces, and then there'll be like books that are like, those are like the sides that you're not expecting, and then like comics and games and all this stuff, and then Rogue Squadron, the cast will be announced.
Have you tried this Kenobi? Oh, look at the end. Go try some of the Andor over there. Oh, Book of Boba Fett.
And looming above it all will be pictures of what we'll be getting next year with Rogue Squadron, because there'll be like leaked set pics and stuff. Like all of that stuff's going on next year. It's going to be insane. Like, yeah, Ben, I'm with you. Like,
the meal we're going to be getting next year. No, I'm still full from this year. Let me pace myself.
Honestly, if every year were like 2021, where you got a season of an animated show, some cool one-off specials with things like Visions and the Lego thing, some good books with the High Republic stuff, and a live action show. And if we just scooched up Book of Boba Fett a little bit so that it was in the fall instead of at the end of the year, I would be very, very happy with every year being like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
To think that we're going to go from that to the insanity that will be 2022. And then 2023 is going to be even more than that, because there'll be that many shows, that many books, and a freaking movie at the end of it. That's like the buffet. To take the buffet metaphor, there'll be all of that, and then the biggest freaking ice cream sundae you can imagine at the end of it with Rogue Squadron. I
feel like we're all going to be the embodiment of that Rebel Wilson meme going, enough.
Just like, oh my god, it's going to be amazing. It'll be so well fed with Star Wars. There won't be time for anything else. Forget the Marvel Cinematic Universe or DC, Doctor Who, baseball, any of it. We won't have time for any of it. We'll just be Star Wars.
You miss 1 week of Star Wars, you're going to be so far behind.
It's going to be nuts. Oh, man, it's going to be fabulous. We're going to have such fun. Let's keep going with the news. Chloe Zhao, big time filmmaker, Oscar winner.
There you go.
Oscar winner, director of the upcoming Eternals movie, if I'm not mistaken.
True.
She was interviewed by Al Horner of Empire Magazine this weekend. Al had a question for her that will be relevant to all of us. Here's what Al said. He said, you've mentioned Star Wars a good couple of times now in this call. It was obviously really formative for you. Now that you've proven you can tackle a big blockbuster in a huge franchise with Eternals, would you like to direct a Star Wars movie? Chloe replies with, I have to tread very carefully with what I say here.
Oh.
Laughs in square brackets.
What does that mean?
What?
Yes. Let's just say it's a world that I have so much reverence for because it was such an important part of my life. Laughs in square brackets again.
Has
and
she been talking to Kathy?
now, yeah, see, the question is, are those laughters like chuckles, like, I love Star Wars, yeah, I love it, or are they like nervous laughter of like, I can't say anything, I can't say anything. What's going on here?
That is fascinating. I've obviously none of us have seen the Eternals yet.
Yeah.
Please email us if you have.
No, speak for yourself.
But the trailers have been very fascinating, and it looks like a really very interesting movie for that universe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course I did watch Nomadland, and I very much enjoyed it. It's a very different movie than a Star Wars movie, more of a drama type movie. A lot of extreme realism. That's kind of the point. It's like, this is what it looks like, and we're gonna show you type of movie. So I could not imagine two films that are really more different than Eternals and Nomadland, although it would be interesting if Eternals has some of those elements in it. So that's a lot of range, and that basically says if she does a Star Wars project, until we start getting a feel for what it is from trailers and some conversations, it's going to be hard for us to predict what she could do.
Yeah,
she has that range there. So, and that makes me really excited because, we want Star Wars to be more outside of the box. We want it to expand. So having someone making it who has that resume would be amazing. So I this gets my hopes up. Hopefully not too high, because I would love to see her do Star Wars. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, my preference for who the directors are for Star Wars movies generally are people who haven't done something that I think, oh, that's like Star Wars. I want the people who haven't done something that I think, oh, that's like Star Wars. And for me, like the best example of this is not actually with any of the films, but with The Mandalorian, their director Rick Famuyiwa.
Yes.
Because I remember he did an interview where he talked about when Jon Favreau approached him about directing on The Mandalorian. And he's like, you know who I am, right? Like, I'm not big budget sci-fi guy. You saw Dope, right? You saw the movie I made. It was dope. And Favreau goes, yeah, that's why we want you. Because you look at that movie, you look at Dope, and you don't think Star Wars. But then you stop and think about it, and you realize, oh, there's actually a lot in common with Star Wars once you rip away, the surface level stuff. It's a hero's journey. It's about somebody who wants to leave where they're from, and so I think about someone like Chloe. I think maybe okay, Nomadland on its surface, not really a Star Wars thing, but there's you look at the themes and the ideas that are explored in her movies. Imagine those in a sci-fi setting. And then I think, okay, now we're starting to get at what Star Wars could be. Because I always go back to this. George, his movie, right, the original Star Wars movie, he wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie originally, and they said no. They wouldn't give him the rights. So he had to invent this whole other thing. And what he did was he didn't set out to do something that was heavy sci-fi with big technical explanations and that sort of thing. Instead, he said, all right, I'm going to tell the story about a boy who wants to leave home and go on an adventure, and that adventure just so happens to be set in space. There you go. And that's how you wind up with Star Wars. He wasn't, you look at George's previous movies, you look at THX and you look at American Graffiti, you put them together and you go, okay, I kind of see Star Wars. But he didn't make Buck Rogers the movie before making Star Wars. This, not to pick on JJ, because I think JJ did a really good job with Force Awakens. But he did Star Trek before he did Star Wars. And it's sort of like you kind of went like, the guy who did the star thing, let's get him to do the other star thing. And there you go. But, that can still work. Like I said, Force Awakens, amazing movie. But yeah, the point is, I like it when the directors aren't the obvious choice necessarily. It's not it's not the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, so to speak.
Yeah, like
no offense to James Gunn.
No, exactly. Because a lot of people like James Gunn would be high on my list of directors I'd love to see things. But at the same time, he's kind of already done his own version of Star Wars. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is very Star Warsy in a lot of ways. Whereas Eternals, from my first impressions of it, I haven't really had any real expectations for the movie. I've seen a couple of trailers. I'm not super hyped for the movie because I don't know what it is. I don't know any of the characters. I knew nothing about it. But from what my first impressions of it is this is unlike anything I've really ever seen before. It's definitely way different than anything in the MCU for sure, and really any other movie that I've seen. So that's interesting to me. I'm very intrigued just as a casual Marvel fan, but as someone who wants to see different things in Star Wars, that's also very interesting. That's also very intriguing to bring someone in that's things, because what is not Star Wars? Star Wars has so many reference points and so many things, and can be so many things, despite what some people believe. There is no limits. There is no limits what it can be and where it can be taken. And so I think someone like Chloe Zhao could expand what Star Wars is versus it, doing what you're going to do in this box, which is what we've seen a lot of lately.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's keep moving. We got another story here. You guys remember a couple months ago, started hearing rumblings that a certain character from Star Wars Rebels would be making the jump to live action. A certain fella by the name of Ezra Bridger, and they actually, or some rumors that we might actually know who's playing him. A guy by the name of Mena Massoud. You may know him as the star of Disney's Aladdin from a couple of years ago. And he was interviewed this week by Screen Rant. And Screen Rant straight up asked him about a certain Instagram post he made a couple of months ago that had people wondering if he was hinting at something more. So take a look at this and to listen to this interview, and we'll see what we think.
So you posted this photo in March with the caption, "Hey, just so you know, when I escape, I won't hurt any of you." The spiral that you created that day, the shockwave, the power you hold. Can we talk about that? What's going on, man?
Just manifesting, just manifesting, trying different things. There's not much more I can say about that, but I had heard murmurings that this role was coming up and this is becoming a real thing. So I just kind of wanted to throw my name in the ring, and just part of manifesting what you want. I think we live in an age now that's so different than, the 70s, 80s, 90s Hollywood, where, there was no social media. It was really just your representatives putting things out there for you. But now, we have the ability to put things out there for ourselves because of social media and because we can, put things out there. So, just wanted to put it out there, I guess.
I think you'd be a great Ezra Bridger.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What would it mean to you to be a part of the Star Wars universe?
It would be a dream come true. Obviously, I've already had one of my dreams come true with Aladdin, but I also think I could just really, do it justice. I've worked on that kind of big, massive, sci-fi, set before on Aladdin. I think I have that under my belt now. And, obviously, thankfully the film did really well. So I think I've proven that I can be successful in that environment. So I think it would just be a great opportunity to take everything that I learned on a set like Aladdin and implement it into, the Star Wars or DC or Marvel universe. We're talking about manifesting. So, it would mean a lot. But I think, I think I would also do a solid job and work really hard.
So he says a lot in that clip.
A lot.
He says a lot about how he'd love to do it, and he sort of says, "Oh, if it's not Star Wars, I'd love to do DC or Marvel, yada yada yada." But the most telling part is right at the beginning. So I'm going to start the clip again, and we'll stop as soon as it happens.
So you posted this photo in March with the caption, "Hey, just so you know, when I escape, I won't hurt any of you." The spiral that you created, that the shockwave, the power you hold. Can we talk about that? What's going on, man?
Just manifesting. Just manifesting, trying different things. There's not much more I can say about that, but
Not much more he can say. He did such a good job. Mena, you did such a good job of pretending that it was all just wishful thinking, manifesting, trying to make it happen. But then you said you can't say any more. You didn't say there's nothing more to it.
We see what you're doing.
Yeah, you didn't say there's nothing more to it. You didn't say I that's all it is. You said there's nothing more I can say, which is what they always say when they're hiding something. And the other thing about that interview that I think is a bit of a giveaway. They never actually say, the interviewer, she never actually says to him, "You quoted Ezra Bridger. Are you playing Ezra Bridger?"
Right.
All she had to do was reference the quote and reference the post, and he knew exactly what she was talking about. Now, granted, maybe Massoud is just a big Rebels fan. Maybe he listened to Live from Lothal back in the day when he was on set.
Of course he did.
Shooting Aladdin. He got very annoyed with me when I didn't like the fact that AP5 sung in space. Maybe all that stuff. But
Mena's a man of culture. He understands true cinema.
Yes. But he knew as soon as she referenced that post, he knew what was going on, and he tried really, really hard. But he gave us that one little bit to go on. It's happening. He's Ezra. He's Ezra. Let's move on. That's all there is to it.
It's Frank Oz all over again. Can't talk about that.
Yeah, they asked.
Yoda in Last Jedi, can't talk about that.
Yeah, Frank was even better because he said they asked me not to talk about it.
Whoops.
I love Frank Oz so much.
That's not how this works. At least Mena's like, nah, I can't. He's like jokingly like, yeah, I can't really talk about that. Like he's trying. Like Frank is just like,
He's Ezra. He's Ezra. We know he's Ezra. All right.
Done deal.
We don't have to spend any more time on it. Next story. This one is very interesting to me. Lucy Lawless, star of Xena Warrior Princess. She said that there are fans out there that wanted her to replace one Gina Carano in The Mandalorian may have actually hurt her chances of being in a future Star Wars project. I think we need a little bit more on that graphic there, Chad. So she was being interviewed by metro.co.uk while promoting this new movie or show. It's called My Life is a Murder. And they asked her about it and about this fan petition that got started up when Gina was summarily fired from Star Wars for her ridiculous tweets. And that they wanted Lucy to take on the role of Cara Dune in future Star Wars and Mandalorian projects. Well, this is what Lucy Lawless had to say. She says, "Well, to be honest with you, I was already in discussions about something on. It wasn't The Mandalorian, but it was something Star Wars affiliated. It might have hurt me in some way because then they couldn't hire me because it would seem like pandering to, and I'm just guessing here, I don't know anything, but in some ways it can be unhelpful because if they pander to this fan group, then they have to pander to every other fan group. Do you know what I mean?" The actor continued outlining how the hypothetical fan casting meant that she quote unquote became political despite having nothing to do with Carano's exit. "I became political and I had nothing to do with the discussion." I love it when articles quote like describe the quote before they give you the quote. Like, thanks for that, Metro. She said, I became political and I had nothing to do with the discussion. but that's the world. That's the way the world is, and they meant it out of love, and I thank the fans for their fealty to me. I haven't thought about that since, so it hasn't given me a lot of pain, but it was my thought at the time, like, ooh, this makes me look like a political appointment and not an actress.
But that would only be the case if she was fitting into that same role of Cara Dune. I don't understand if she just shows up somewhere else in Star Wars, why, like, that doesn't compute to me.
Okay, I think what we have to remember here is that this is something she's speculating about. She isn't saying like, oh, for sure they passed on me because.
Yeah, I know. I'm shooting down her speculation. I don't agree. I think that's going a little too far.
Right. So that may have been the case. Lucasfilm is concerned with image and making things. So Disney, we know from examples of them wanting to preserve this squeaky clean image and not wanting to encourage parts of the fan base that shouldn't be encouraged, maybe, or ones that they don't want to encourage.
They agree with that part of the fan base.
Yeah, they agree with the part of the fan base that said get rid of Gina because they got rid of Gina.
Yeah.
And that wasn't pandering?
Yeah, and like, oh, like those people, people that are mad that Gina's out are gonna like not continue to be mad. It's not like you go on every High Republic video on YouTube and there's not a million comments from a bunch of bots somewhere in Russia saying, "Oh, bring back Gina Carano."
When they did that, they were saying like, "Oh, she's already been fired." Like they were like, "Well, you guys asked for it. Well, we did it anyway. We did it before then." Like. I don't know. Like but I think I don't know. Like you don't know, but I think there's a lot of speculation from her point of view that I'm not sure is totally.
I think that wow, that got out just at the end of the sentence. Perfect.
Ben, should we play the song? Because it didn't interrupt anything when Ben dropped this time.
That's like hitting the mute button when you're not talking.
Whoopsie.
No, we back. Perfect, Ben. You said you did and you left. Perfect. What was I gonna say? I mean, it seems like Disney still kind of sides with the actors, though. Like, initially, Disney didn't right away when Gina started causing controversies online. They waited a freaking long time to get rid of her. Like they were hoping that it would blow over for a while. They were hoping that she would stop or apologize or change her ways. They gave her a very, very long leash, in my opinion. So the fact that they gave her that long leash suggests to me that they wouldn't go and alter somebody else's career because of some talk online by some people about something that's not only slightly related to the situation. Like I think that Disney's more professional than that, and I think they're more professional than that. I think Disney's above letting something like that affect someone's career. I think the only reason why Gina had to leave was it just was a repeated situation where she wasn't learning. She was being told maybe you shouldn't do this, and then she went and did it anyway, and it got to the point where she was kind of trying to stick it to a little bit and saying like, hey, I can do what I want. Like, she had a little bit too much of an ego in that situation. So, but in general, I think Disney doesn't want stuff like this affecting their creative decisions and affecting people's jobs in general.
Yeah. There's another aspect of this that I'll throw in quickly, and that is that Lucy Lawless has actually already been in Star Wars. She was a voice on the forgotten animated series Star Wars Resistance, and it would not shock me if she's just getting things crossed in her mind here, and that she did Resistance, she did her part for that, and has either forgotten about it or thought the show was canceled. And the reason why I'm saying that is because another actor from that show, Paul F. Tompkins, who did an episode in season 2, tweeted something out like months after his episode had aired saying, "Oh, this Star Wars show that I did that I thought was canceled finally came out."
Oh, Interesting.
What?
And yeah, it was like months after the episode had aired. Like, it was ridiculous. Again, Star Wars Resistance was a good show that didn't have the support of its network and its studio. But and so I wonder if like the people who did all those like awesome celebrities who came in and did either guest spots or recurring roles on that show, I wonder if they think that show was canceled because nobody ever acted like they were in the show. There was no interviews. There was no Hollywood Reporter exclusive stories about it. It was just like they went in one day and then it just disappeared, and now it exists on Disney Plus, and maybe they know it's there, maybe they don't, but it doesn't happen. So anyways, that could be that brings up brings up my frustrations from 2018 about how that show did not get the support it deserved.
Modern Lucasfilms like weirdness with that stuff. Like they always made a huge deal out of like the guest stars. Like even like when Chewbacca showed up, they were like, "Oh yeah, we got Peter Mayhew to consult on this, and he did Wookiee noises, and they're in the show. Like this is amazing." Like and they released like a whole like documentary about it. Like they were full on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got Lucy Lawless, we got all these different people, we're not going to talk about it."
They had an episode of Resistance that Daveed Diggs, Joe Manganiello, and Fred Armisen all guest starred in the same episode, and they released it the week between Christmas and New Year when The Mandalorian and The Rise of Skywalker were both also being released. They did not. That show did not get the support it deserved. That should have been huge that all three of those people were in Star Wars, and they didn't get any. It didn't get any attention. It didn't get genuinely. This is just like this was how I began. This is how I began my 2020 was with a rant about this on KazootaCast, and I am just feeling it all coming back because that show deserved better.
Wow.
I think we better move on.
I think this little theory of yours might actually hold water because it would work with the timing too.
It did.
It happened a little while ago, and she thinks she lost it, but she didn't.
It didn't make sense when I could see it on your face. You guys did not believe me when I started explaining it, but I think I've won you over, or at least I've got Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it seems kind of crazy to forget you're in Star Wars, but based on all the evidence, she might not have known she was. It
could have happened. It's possible. I've got my.
Someone needs to tweet her right now and tell her you were in Star Wars.
Yeah. All right.
At some point, she'll be at some convention, and someone will be like, "Sign my Star Wars."
Who did she play in Resistance? See, I can't even remember.
It was like the queen of that planet that they showed up on at the end.
Oh.
I at next convention that she's at that I'm at, I'm getting a picture of her character nicely printed, and I'm buying an autograph, and I'm going to take it to her and be like, "This, you were in Star Wars, and I loved it, and I wish they had let you do more."
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
All right.
Hashtag save Resistance.
Yeah. Hashtag bring back.
Make Star Wars Resistance Season 3 happen.
All right, let's go. One final story for this week. One final story, and this is one of those stories that it might be a bit of a spoiler. Some of you might consider it a bit of a spoiler for the Book of Boba Fett. It's a description of a scene that we don't know the context to, but it sounds like it'll be a really cool scene. So if you want to experience it as a scene first and not as us trying to describe it to you, then this is the end of the episode for you. This is the conclusion of the episode. So this is, if you don't want spoilers, this is the end of the show. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. But for everybody else, stick around because this is your official spoiler alert.
Turn to the dark side and join me.
I'll never join you! You killed my father!
No, Luke. I am your father.
That's not true! That's impossible!
And Princess Leia is your sister.
That's not true! That's improbable!
And the Empire will be defeated by Ewoks.
That's very unlikely.
And as a child, I built C-3PO.
Huh?
And the Force? Well, that's just microscopic bacteria in your bloodstream called midichlorians.
Look, if you're not going to take this seriously, I'm out.
All right, if you don't want spoilers, you're out. All right, so this story comes from Star Wars Newsnet, and they're reporting on a scene from the Book of Boba Fett. Here's what they say: a reliable source has described a scene from the Book of Boba Fett to us. In the scene, Boba Fett will be encountering and quite possibly, so this is it, this is the big thing, taming/controlling a Rancor.
Wow.
Our source was not completely positive on whether Fett is fighting the beast or controlling it, but Fett is standing on the back of the Rancor's neck and looks like he's riding and controlling it as it tears through a complex/city street on what is likely Tatooine. I mean, maybe. We've thought things are Tatooine before. We consulted with a separate source who confirmed to us that the scene is indeed in the series.
Oh, this makes complete sense. I mean, this is the scene after the post-credit scene. So they're sitting there, and they're just hanging out, and Boba Fett's hanging out on Jabba the Hutt's throne, and all the people with the cameras go away, and they're just sitting there. Because it's a reality show, right? Documentary. They go away, and he's just sitting there with Fennec Shannon, like, all right, what should we do first? Oh, that pit looks a little empty down there. Let's go fill that back up. Let's go get a Rancor. Let's go get one. Let's go Rancor shopping.
Yeah.
That's totally what happened. And then they go Rancor shopping, and Rancor shopping is more like you got to jump on one and tame it, and make it respect you and all that stuff, and that's how they get it. And then go back in the pit, and there we go. He's as bad as Jabba.
But the question is, Ben, is it Mochi or is it Patissa? Oh, Ben's muted. We'll never know. We'll never know his response to this.
Oopsie. I muted myself, so that was me. That was not Chad. See, I need to go Google Moochie. What was his color? Because they specifically no, not that. What is this Moochie? I just Googled Moochie, and that's not what I wanted. Okay.
They do say that. I will add that Star Wars Newsnet says that the complexion of the Rancor is said to be lighter than the Rancor from Return of the Jedi. Be that
and
Moochie
looks.
Moochie.
I'm looking at pictures of Moochie. He looks like lighter in color.
And let's not forget, one of those two, Moochie or Patissa, is dead by this point because Luke Skywalker killed them. But could bring him back. Bring him back some way, somehow.
I mean, look. Here's the thing, though. Moochie already has a relationship with some other guys that look like Tim Morrison.
True.
Would Boba Fett show up, take his helmet off? Moochie's like, "Hey, I remember you,
Wrecker. You're back." Oh man, that does sound like a great scene, though. I am excited. To
so good, and it sounds so insane that it has to be true. It has to be.
Oh, this scene sounds like the most Jon Favreau scene of all time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, let's take something from the original trilogy and crank it up to 47. Like, not even take it well past 12. Like, we're going to 47.
Yeah.
Like that's Favreau in a nutshell, and that's the scene. And then you throw in Robert Rodriguez on top of that. Come on, it's gonna be great. So
awesome.
Yeah, the scene sounds good. I can't wait to see it. Thank you, Star Wars Newsnet, for describing it to us and whetting our appetites as we wait for the Book of Boba Fett this December.
If Boba Fett is going around filling out that very empty palace again, really what I want to know is what musical act is he gonna pick? Because I want to see that.
It should be the band from Tatooine Rhapsody.
Yes, the band from Tatooine Rhapsody. Maybe they're a little bit older.
Yeah.
What if like Tim Morrison as Boba Fett just gets up and does his
his own,
like he's just doing the whole thing, and it's like, I'm gonna make my own music.
Yeah. He's got
started.
He's got one of those one-man band suits where he's like playing all the instruments.
Sitting back with the guitar, like a space guitar, just strumming it. Like,
Gonna Get that flamethrower out. Pyrotechnics, let's go.
Yes, I love it.
Fireworks at the end. Shoot that rocket.
I think we've come up with a better show than we're gonna get.
You know he wants to show you. You know that's why. I mean, it was very, very clear in that movie why Boba Fett was in Jabba's palace, because he had finished his job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got Han. He had all his money. He could be anywhere in the galaxy, but he was there for that music.
Yes,
that's why he was
can't get that kind of music anywhere else. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like one of those like silver linings of like everything that we've gone through in the past year is that when you're like walking down the street wearing a mask, you could be like lip syncing along with the music that you're listening to and nobody can tell. That's what Boba Fett's doing under his helmet the whole time. He's just, he's going Lawa, Booney Day under his helmet the whole time. He's just rocking out. So
absolutely.
There it is. All right, that's it. That's the show. That's the show.
Can't get any better than that.
I think with that, we should begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening and watching the show. Once again, to anybody, actually, we should just assume that certain people probably will find our show in audio forms randomly throughout time. So if you just started listening to our show on in a podcast app, we also are a video podcast as well. So if you like video podcasts, you can find that on YouTube. Search for the Star Wars Underworld on YouTube. Scroll past that amazing test footage that should be made into a live action show, and then you'll get to all the episodes and clips from our podcast. So definitely subscribe and like and leave a comment. That would be super, super awesome if you could do that, and definitely leave us a review as well on the podcast app that you are listening to. We will, of course, as always, be back with another episode of the show, same time, same place next week, and that place is YouTube, and that time is 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, at the SWU is where you can follow us on social media. Dominic, thank you so much for returning to the host seat tonight.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, it was great fun to be back. It was great stuff to discuss this week. This was a lot of fun. All of the discussions we had about Terrifying Tales and the books and everything else that's going on in Star Wars. This was a really fun episode. I think you could tell I had about 2 weeks worth of podcasting pent up in me because we were all over the place and I loved it. So it was great fun. And if I could just ask of all the listeners, I never do this because I think it's kind of I'm not even sure what the right word is. Pathetic? Yeah, that's the word. If you could all go and like and retweet my latest tweet at Dominic J25. Dominic J25. Like and retweet the story. And
you could even of what he's saying. Ignore it. He didn't say anything. You didn't hear anything. You didn't see anything.
If you do it, if you help me out, if you do this, and you tweet me to let me know that you did it, I will DM you this week's pre-show so you can watch it without the Patreon.
Oh, and what are you doing? You must stop that.
And if you don't know if you don't know the tweet that I'm referring to, just look for the picture of Ben because then you'll understand. And just like and retweet. In fact, I'll pin it to my profile so that it's always the first thing there.
If I was going to host a podcast, I would host a football podcast, all right?
So help me out. Do that, and I'll send you the pre-show so that you can get the context for what we're talking about.
They kick the ball in baseball, Dominic, right? They kick the ball into a goal.
Occasionally, yeah.
You really think this old chap knows how to play baseball? Come on.
So help me out. Do that. Get in on the joke, and I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. I can't wait to do all this again next week.
Well, that is the best segue ever for at Dominic J25 is where you can find him on social media. That's the best segue ever for that. that. Please do that. Ben, thank you for still being here.
Yes, thank me. You should be thanking me for. Yeah, it's been a week, guys. It's been a week. This was fun. This was fun despite everything. Yeah, it's been a lot, and as we said, there's a lot to look forward to over the next year. I'm shocked that this year is like drawing to a close. Like, I'm genuinely gonna have to start thinking about Christmas shopping. I don't want to do that yet. All right, it's too fast. And then 2022.
I bought my first Christmas present yesterday.
See, I hate you because I'm not that prompt. But yeah, if you for some reason you want to hear more of what's coming out of my mouth, even that ridiculousness earlier, I need to do an all top hat episode of.
Oh my gosh.
Latin night with Latin it with no e.
Latin night with no e.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Usually, it just sits over in the corner and just in the threatening. But we'll have to do some experimentations. I did do one with all filters. I do them with on video, and there was a lot of filters, and it was crazy. But yeah, there's more to come with that show and all the other shows, and it's gonna be hopefully enjoyable.
Heck yeah. And you can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. You can find me at Seek3PO. Our Patreon's patreon.com/the SWU. You can find our merch at tpublic.com/user/the Star Wars Underworld. And our email is swunderworld@gmail.com. That's it. We will be back next week. Until then, for Ben, for Dominic, for our awesome engineer, Chad, and all our great listeners, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
So just quickly, just to reiterate, for those of you that want the pre-show but are just going to do it by liking and retweeting the tweet, you have to also tweet me to let me know that that's why you liked or retweeted it and you're not some bot. So just send me a tweet. Don't reply to the tweet. Send me a separate one. Making this as unnecessarily complicated as possible, because why not? All right, it's a wrap.
Or just don't listen to any of that.